You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's Walk the Talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 9 o'clock, Dumelang. Welcome to the Clement Manyathela Show on this Tuesday, the 10th day of February. Thank you for being with us here on 702. I hope all grand this morning. So, Paul O'Sullivan, by the way, I've just spoken to him now. I've just pre-recorded quite a short interview with Paul O'Sullivan because he's about to begin his testimony in 2 hours' time. But, of course, they're going to get into meetings before then. They have to prepare. So he graciously agreed to speak to us. I was still thinking about whether to play this interview during the open line or play it at 10, but I'll probably play it at 10 o'clock just after the news. You don't want to miss it. I did ask him about why he threatened witnesses who were at the commission. I've asked him why did he object to being asked questions by the EFF and the MK party. And I reminded him that he actually doesn't have the authority to dictate to Parliament who should be asking him questions or not. He says Mkhwanazi, Cedric Nkabinde, Khomotso Phahlane, Dumisani Khumalo are all liars and they are criminals. And I said, do you have evidence of that? And he says he's going to share that evidence today during his testimony. So don't miss that interview. I'm going to play it after the news at 10 o'clock. But he's finally appearing before Parliament to respond to a lot of allegations made against him. He's been accused of possibly being an agent, that he says lies were told about him. He was accused of being one of the rogue elements that are destabilizing the SAPS and wanted to capture every single police officer in the SAPS. I don't think there's any doubt about the kind of influence he has had on some of our law enforcement agencies. He enjoyed clearly a very close relationship with the former IPID head, Robert McBride. McBride himself did say there's in fact, information that Paul O'Sullivan often gave him that was helpful. But claims have been made that operations of IPID were coordinated at O'Sullivan's house. I mean, one of the things he will probably have to explain is why he threatened witnesses of the ad hoc committee. And you'll hear him respond to that just after the news at 10 o'clock. And also the question of why he was objecting to being asked questions by the EFF and the MK party. Speaking of the EFF, in fact, the EFF leader, Julius Malema, was meant to be on this show today from 10 until 11 o'clock. We've been working on this since last week, but they asked that we postpone after O'Sullivan suddenly decided he is going to go to Parliament after having resisted for some time now, arguing that he fears for his life and that he was out of the country. Here's what Malema said in Parliament yesterday, looking ahead to asking O'Sullivan questions whether he likes it or not.
Shame on those who tried to justify why people who have captured our criminal justice system were refusing and ridiculing and undermining this Parliament. That's why Paul O'Sullivan has got the guts to say some members will not ask him questions because he wants to be asked questions by his friends. I had an interview tomorrow with 702 at 10 o'clock with Clement Manyathela. I cancelled it. I'm coming there. And there is nothing culturally, chairperson, which is going to stop me from coming there.
So, Paul O'Sullivan can clearly expect a frosty reception from Parliament, probably. What do you want to hear from him? What do you want the committee to question him on? Give me a call on 011-883-0702. Your WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. So, there's a conversation I also want us to have on the 702 open line, if you don't mind. And I would like us to be very cautious because I don't want us to degenerate into something else. I have been following this tussle between Roedean and King David schools. And I want to give you some context of what I understand has happened, give you my views, and then hear what you think. Because we actually have a large community of parents on this station who listen to us, whose kids go to either of the schools. So I'm going to give you a bit of a summary, and if I'm missing something else, you're welcome to call me and point out maybe something I've missed in this context I'm trying to paint for some of the listeners that may not be aware of what we're talking about. So students at Roedean and King David were scheduled to play tennis together, right? But when King David's students arrived at Roedean, they were told that the players were in geography workshops, so the fixture wasn't honored. The King David School, which is a Jewish school, is accusing Roedean of anti-Semitism for failing to honor the tennis fixture. Roedean's principal has admitted that some parents at the school have objected to the school, Roedean that is, playing against King David. The principal says she tried to explain to the parents that the school is, apolitical first and foremost, but some of the parents were concerned about King David being a Jewish school and proudly supporting the state of Israel regardless of what's happening with the war in the Middle East. Right? So there are some parents of children at Roedean who are saying we have to take the stance that government has taken and support that. So that's just a bit of context. Now, the challenge now is I saw a statement dropping from Roedean because there's been telephone conversations that have since, I think, been leaked between the principal of King David and the principal of Roedean. But the principal of Roedean, from what I've read, was trying to explain to the principal of King David that, I'm getting a little pressure from the parents. This is what they're concerned about. And then in the statement that Roedean has sent out this morning, because, by the way, remember I said King David went to Roedean on the day that was scheduled for them to have this fixture, but they were told that the students were in geography workshops. And apparently King David realized that there were no geography workshops. In fact, Roedean didn't want their students to play against King David in this team. So at 10 o'clock, we're going to play you that interview with Paul O'Sullivan. At 11 o'clock, we're going to do our World of Work feature. Today, we're discussing the expectations to have experience before you can land a job, but you can't find a job to give you experience. So there are challenges to securing a job without experience. So that's at 11. 11:30, we do our health and wellness feature, and today we are discussing the dangers of processed foods. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
Clement Manyathela, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Leon, you are calling us from Benoni. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks, man. Clement, I think the teachers, the parents have a right to choose not to let their children play against a school that is clearly Zionist. If a Catholic school wanted to not let their children play against someone who was openly satanic, would you not agree with that?
Yeah, but how can you compare a satanic group of people with a group of people who are a Jewish school? I don't think that is fair, Leon.
Both are religions.
Satanic is a religion.
Satanism is a valid religion.
Yeah, but how do you compare that then with a Jewish religion? What are the comparisons? Like, give me the elements that are similar.
I said Zionist.
Okay, Zionist. What is similar between Zionism and Satanism? That you can give me 3 things that they do, these two religions.
Okay, first of all, the killing of children. Second of all, not owning up to what you do is wrong. And third, justifying it.
Really? Those are the principles of a satanic religion?
I presume so.
Okay.
I'm
Leon,
not really interested.
when I started this conversation, and I really mean it, is I really don't want us to degenerate elsewhere. I want us to have a rational conversation because this is an issue that affects students and parents. And I really want to hear from the parents. I don't want to get into comparisons and accusing other religions of satanistic principles or not. I really would like us to have a rational, respectful conversation because there are Jewish people that will not take kindly to what you say, Leon, which they can take offense to. Equally so, if you are a Catholic person and someone makes a comparison like that, you would equally also be upset about it. So, do you have any thoughts about how the two schools have managed this issue?
Not really. The way Roedean did was fine. But calling it anti-Semitism is not fine.
Okay, but Roedean didn't cancel the fixture. They are admitting in their statement that regrettably the cancellation was not effectively communicated to King David's team. We apologize unreservedly for this communication. So why is Roedean not taking accountability for failing to effectively communicate this cancellation? They let King David guys come and play there, only for them to be told, oh, our students are in a class.
Well, then that is not anti-Semitism, though.
I agree with you
they
there.
are being accused of.
I agree with you there, Leon, but be fair enough as well to say Roedean could have handled this better.
They could have handled it better. But, I mean, that doesn't give anyone the excuse to call them anti-Semitic or that is specific anti-Semitism.
I agree with you there. I absolutely agree with you there. I think that's exaggerating it. That's pushing it, which is actually what we've seen over the last 2 years, right? I agree there. But once again, guys, if you want to call in now on this conversation, I ask you to please deal with the matters. I don't want us to degenerate. And that's why I said in the beginning, I don't want us to degenerate into something else and calling other people names and, degenerating and degrading other people's religions and religious choices. I don't want us to do that. Please, let's have a rational conversation. I've given you the context. If there's something you're missing, you want me to repeat, I'll give it to you again. But I'm interested as a parent. How do you feel about how this matter has been handled? I think if I had a kid who goes to a school and I've got some reservations about something, whether I'm right or wrong as a parent, I want that principal to hear me. I do. And if that principal must cancel a fixture until they've had a conversation with me as a parent or with my kid who is a learner, a student at that school, then let it be. But to want to accuse a principal who was putting parents and schools as their priority and accuse them, oh, you're being anti-Semitic because what were you supposed to do? Just force the students to play even when they have reservations? I think that's wild. Lehlogonolo, you're calling from Centurion. Hi.
Madi Major, good morning to you. How are you?
Shop, go ahead.
Major, here's the thing. The government has taken a stand on Israel. And we are represented by the government. We are the people that the government represents. You understand? So when those parents follow what the government, the stand that we the people, ask the government to take of not allowing anything, okay, to happen between us and Israel, okay. Here's the thing: the Jewish community in South Africa has not come out and called out Netanyahu for what he's doing.
That's wrong.
Or Israel for what he's doing.
That is wrong.
You understand?
No.
They haven't.
No,
they haven't.
Lehlogonolo, you're wrong. And I always say
the board of Jewish.
No, the board of Jewish. Who says the board of Jewish deputies represent every Jewish person in this country?
It represents the majority of the Jewish people in the country.
Do you know?
The principal in that school, in King David, must just come out and let us know what is his stance on the issue that is happening in the Middle East.
Clement Manyathela. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856
92.7
and 106 FM.
Leon, you are calling us from Benoni. Good morning.
Morning, Clement. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Thanks, man. Clement, I think the teachers, the parents have a right to choose not to let their children play against a school that is clearly Zionist. I mean, if a Catholic school wanted to not let their children play against someone who was openly satanic, would you not agree with that?
Yeah, but how can you compare a satanic group of people with a group of people who are a Jewish school? I don't think that is fair, Leon.
Both are religions.
Satanic is a religion.
Satanism is a valid religion.
Yeah, but how do you compare that then with a Jewish religion? What are the comparisons? Like, give me the elements that are similar.
I said Zionist.
Okay, Zionist. What is similar between Zionism and Satanism that you can give me 3 things that they do, these two religions.
Okay, first of all, the killing of children. Second of all, not owning up to what you do is wrong. And third, justifying it.
Really? Those are the principles of a satanic religion?
I presume so.
Okay.
I'm
Leon,
not really into.
when I started this conversation, and I really mean it, is I really don't want us to degenerate elsewhere. I want us to have a rational conversation because this is an issue that affects students and parents. And I really want to hear from the parents. I don't want to get into comparisons and accusing other religions of satanistic principles or not. I really would like us to have a rational, respectful conversation because there are Jewish people that will not take kindly to what you say, Leon, which they can take offense to. Equally so, if you are a Catholic person and someone makes a comparison like that, you would equally also be upset about it. So, do you have any thoughts about how the two schools have managed this issue?
Not really. The way Roedean did was fine. But calling it anti-Semitism is not fine.
Okay, but Roedean didn't cancel the fixture. They are admitting in their statement that regrettably the cancellation was not effectively communicated to King David's team. We apologize unreservedly for this communication. So why is Roedean not taking accountability for failing to effectively communicate this cancellation? They let King David guys come and play there, only for them to be told, oh, our students are in a class.
Well, then that is not anti-Semitism, though.
I agree with you
they
there.
are being accused of.
I agree with you there, Leon, but be fair enough as well to say Roedean could have handled this better.
They could have handled it better. But, I mean, that doesn't give anyone the excuse to call them anti-Semitic or that is specific anti-Semitism.
I agree with you there. I absolutely agree with you there. I think that's exaggerating it. That's pushing it, which is actually what we've seen over the last 2 years, right? I agree there. But once again, guys, if you want to call in now on this conversation, I ask you to please deal with the matters. I don't want us to degenerate. And that's why I said in the beginning, I don't want us to degenerate into something else and calling other people names and, degenerating and degrading other people's religions and religious choices. I don't want us to do that. Please, let's have a rational conversation. I've given you the context. If there's something you're missing, you want me to repeat, I'll give it to you again. But I'm interested as a parent. How do you feel about how this matter has been handled? I think if I had a kid who goes to a school and I've got some reservations about something, whether I'm right or wrong as a parent, I want that principal to hear me. I do. And if that principal must cancel a fixture until they've had a conversation with me as a parent or with my kid who is a learner, a student at that school, then let it be. But to want to accuse a principal who was putting parents and schools as their priority and accuse them, oh, you're being anti-Semitic because what were you supposed to do? Just force the students to play even when they have reservations? I think that's wild. Lehlogonolo, you're calling from Centurion. Hi.
Madi Major, good morning to you. How are you?
Shop, go ahead.
Madi Major, here's the thing. The government has taken a stand on Israel. And we are represented by the government. We are the people that the government represents. You understand? So when those parents follow what the government, the stand that we the people, ask the government to take of not allowing anything, okay, to happen between us and Israel, okay? Here's the thing: the Jewish community in South Africa has not come out and called out Netanyahu for what he's doing.
That's wrong.
Or Israel for what he's doing.
That is wrong.
You understand?
No.
They haven't.
No,
they haven't.
Lehlogonolo, you're wrong. And I always say
the board of Jewish.
No, the board of Jewish. Who says the board of Jewish deputies represent every Jewish person in this country?
It represents the majority of the Jewish people in the country.
Do you know
the principal in that school in King David must just come out and let us know what is his stance on the issue that is happening in the Middle East. What is the stance of that school? Then maybe then maybe Roedean will then reconsider. Those kids in Roedean, I take out my head for them and their parents. They will then reconsider and say, at least he has opposed what is happening in Israel. At least we know they are stunned. At least we know that we are going to play people who are supporting, who are not supporting genocide.
So, Lehlonolo, what responsibility does Roedean have to follow a government policy? They are a private school. Who said they have to follow a government policy?
They have to. They are in South Africa.
No, that's not true. That's not true.
They are in South Africa. They are led by the president. Who's the president of the country?
Do you think I follow government policy? You're wrong. I don't. Let me give you an example. When Russia invaded Ukraine, our government policy was quote unquote neutral. I was never neutral on that. I criticized Russia for invading Ukraine. So
but
if
you can't come out.
You are saying Roedean
represents South Africa and say
who says Roedean represents South Africa?
No, I'm saying Roedean takes the government stand. The government stand, it's what it is now.
Who says they must?
It needs to be followed by each and every individual.
No, that's not true. Lehlonolo, I'm giving you an example right now. I have not followed government policy. So what? Have I violated any law?
Well, you haven't violated any law, but whatever you're following, it's not going to apply. We are going to follow what the majority has as government. We are going to follow what government is saying. Whatever you're saying, you will end up saying it there, the radio station. You cannot go and represent our government and say, but
who said Roedean? Where is Roedean representing your government?
No. The kids follow the. It's not Roedean as such, but it's the kids that goes to Roedean and the parents.
Yeah, they don't represent government. Lehlonolo, I think you're misinformed there, my friend. That's why there's freedom of speech. You can say whatever. I can say right now that I'm against our government policy for taking Israel to the ICJ. I can say that right now. So can Roedean. So can King David. So can any other school. I don't know where you get this idea that any school in this country has a responsibility to follow government policy. They're not somewhere on the international platform being sent by government to represent them. That's not the case. That a private school, they can decide whatever they want. And I'm not trying to argue here that the parents were wrong for whatever reservations they have. The parents must be listened to. But I'm arguing this idea that, Roedean is following government policy and they have a responsibility to do that. Where do you get that? Huh? It's 9:32.
Your voice.
Your station.
Your open line.
Walk the talk with Clement Manyathela.
On 702.
33 minutes before 10 o'clock. Have you been following what's happening between Roedean and King David schools? I'm interested in your thoughts. You can give us a call on 011-883-0702. Please be quick with your comments. I want to try and get as many calls as possible because we've got lots of calls and voice notes that are coming through. So Azra, let's start with you. You are calling us from Johannesburg. Good morning.
Hi, Clement. Hope you're doing well.
I'm good.
Basically what I want to chat about is, the students themselves, right? Obviously, it's a bit tricky to get their view because we don't want them to be ostracized on either side. But I think we have to give them more credit than you mentioned. You said maybe the parents are putting their views onto them. I think two things to mention. Number one, we know that the King David School is not apolitical. Like you said, they support the state of Israel. And I think we must be very clear between Zionism and Judaism. So they are strongly Zionist, which is a political ideology. The second thing is we know that it's the 50th anniversary of Soweto Uprising. Those were students, and they made a big difference in our history. So who's to say that students at Roedean or even King David for that matter don't have their own minds, their own beliefs. They see what's happening. They're getting a lot more information than we had when we were younger. So I think we've got to give them credit. And we have to think to ourselves, is it not also their feelings and approaches? Because it's not just about hostages pictures being put up at King David. They have security. They are a feeder for Israeli defense forces. So you are playing against a potential person who is going to go on Aliyah, take someone's home, or possibly serve on the IDF. So I think it's a lot bigger than what we think. And I think we must give our young people credit for having their own minds.
Azra, I absolutely agree with you. In fact, I celebrate the kids who've got their own independent thinking. If there are kids at Roedean who are following global politics and they say to the principal, can we have a conversation? because we are concerned about 1, 2, 3. How dare you, as a principal, ignore that? And how dare another school want to come and make all sorts of accusations against you just because, as a principal, you wanted to prioritize your students and their parents who have raised some concerns? Who do you represent then, if you don't represent those two groups?
Agreed.
Azra, thank you for your thoughts. Wendy, you calling us from Houghton. Hi.
Yes. Hi, Clement. Thanks so much for giving me the opportunity.
Sure, go ahead.
I just wanted to say this is an incredibly painful situation for the Jewish community, and for, there was no question that King David was discriminated against, and that on Tuesday afternoon, when they arrived for the fixture and they were told that Roedean did not play with Jewish schools, that was an incredibly
Sorry, they were told what?
and hurtful. They were told that Roedean was not going to play with a Jewish school.
They said a
that
Jewish
was made very
school?
clear, yes.
By the
that was
principal?
made very clear, yes, by the principal to the other principal. It was made very clear that there was a discomfort with playing with a Jewish school. And I think one can spin it in any way that you want to. When we come to a situation in South Africa where our constitutional values and where we are being discriminated and Jewish schools cannot participate in sporting events, I think it's an incredibly sad day.
Yeah, Wendy, 1 second. Has Roedean never played with King David before?
They have played with
Has
King
David always been a Jewish
year,
school?
But yeah, correct.
Okay.
But this year they made it very clear that they didn't want to play with King David.
But let's be fair then,
and
Wendy.
that's called discrimination.
Let's be fair. So, even you, the principal of the school, speaking to John Pellman yesterday, and I'll play that clip in a moment. Let's be fair here. Roedean has always played with you as a Jewish, not you, the King David, as a Jewish school, right? What has happened between now and over the last 3 years is because there's been a new wave of war in the Middle East. There are parents from Roedean who are observing what has happened in the Middle East, and they are uncomfortable, some of them and some of the students, with playing with a school that advocates for a state of Israel, given what has happened between Israel and Hamas over the last, 3 years or so. And I'm talking about this new wave of war. I'm not saying that's where the war began. So why would you then want to say they don't want to play a Jewish school when they've played with King David's before? And the difference now is what has happened to the people in Gaza.
Well, when we start importing an international conflict into our school and start discriminating against religious groups and religious schools because of something that's happening in another country and another continent, it's a very sad day. Are we now going to start saying that we don't want to play against Muslim schools because of the protesters, massacres happening in Iran? Are we going to start not playing Muslim schools? I think we have to start having principles that we do not bring international conflict. The principal of Roedean made a comment to the principal of King David to say, we're following government's international policy.
He didn't say that. No, Wendy.
She did. It's in the recording. If you listen to the recording between the two
The quote
that's
says,
exactly what was said.
the quote says, the parents are basically saying that because of the stance that government took, we are supposed to support that. I keep having to remind them that schools are apolitical first and foremost, particularly in SA. We don't take a stance like that. That's what this principal said.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you that principal in that recording made it clear that this match, they did not want to proceed with the match, and then on the day, they didn't arrive. They didn't arrive. King David arrived with their learners to be told that Roedean did not want to play with a Jewish school.
Okay.
And I think it's a very, very sad day when we start importing foreign content. And you quote our government. Our government has a very sound policy against discrimination and against any form of hate, against anyone on the base of religion, on the base of race, on the relation.
Yeah, Wendy, let me ask you this quickly.
We've got to be very, very careful. It's a slippery slope.
Yeah, let me ask you this. Hold on.
Discrimination
Wendy?
in this country.
Okay, I need to come in here at some point. Here's what I want to ask you before you leave. If there were students at King David's who had reservations against playing with another school, right? Let's say there's a school that advocates, for argument's sake, the state of Iran, for instance. If there were students at King David and parents who had reservations against King David playing with a school that fully supports Iran, what do you do? What would you do if you were a principal of King David's? Do you force the students to play without hearing their concerns?
I think it's a very different scenario. This is a Jewish school. This is a Jewish school that's probably close on 100 years in this country that is involved in so many different facets. And to now, because of a conflict in another country.
Oh, wait, this is very a simple question. If there was a school that has also been around for 200 years or 100 years that supports the state of Iran, and you as you are the principal of King David's, and you've got students who are saying, Miss Wendy, I've got concerns here. Do you force them to play, or do you at the very least postpone and hear their concerns and maybe even teach them that you shouldn't allow politics to come into the school? So do you shut them down, or do you hear them?
King David has never taken stances on political issues in Israel or anywhere else.
Would you hear them? Would you hear them?
King David stands up. King David stands up for the right of the state of Israel to exist. Many of us have religious.
Yeah, but Wendy, you're not responding to my question here. I'm asking you a simple question. Would you hear the students who say we don't want to play against this school that supports the state of Iran? Would you hear them, or would you force them to go play?
You would hear them. You would hear them,
right.
And then you would turn around to them and say, we don't discriminate. No matter what the case is, we don't discriminate against schools on the basis of their religion.
Okay, then we agree there, because that's precisely what the Roedean principal is trying to do. She's trying to have a conversation with the students and hear what they have to say and correct them where they may be wrong. Neil, you're in Randburg. What are your thoughts? Hi.
Hello, Clement. Hope you're doing well.
Shop, go ahead.
I've got a bit of a different spin on this. Being a member on the SGB board, I can see the story playing out, and I'm sure there was a WhatsApp group somewhere in the school.
Yeah.
Everything hits off, and the principal more than likely said, listen, I signed up for education, I didn't sign up for this. And I think the primary function of the principal will be then to say, listen, I need to firstly look after the sentiments of my parents and the learners, hear them out, and then take action. They cannot be forced to do whatever they want to, otherwise the principal will be in a fairly pickle. I mean, it's like they're in a marriage together. They're not visiting someone, having a fight, and then they can leave again. He needs to stick with the school and the parents and the teachers. What kind of principal would he be if he didn't say, listen, I need to respect the view currently, and then after that intervene? This is clearly not a discussion that can be had in a whole scenario where the students are together. Let's talk this out for half an hour. There's a bigger conversation that needs to happen in that school, and you're not going to fix that before a tennis match.
I got you, Neil. And as I've said before, I'm really disappointed with how Roedean has handled this entire thing. I really am. And the fact that they're not willing to come and at least give their side of the story, they're living vacuum. So we must now assume what's going on. If really there are students and parents who have come out and expressed their discomfort, and they've got every right to do that. They've got every right to do that. The same way that parents or students from King David would, if they had reservations against playing with another school because they want to make an ethical decision, and that's why I'm giving you the state of Iran. If there's a school that supports the state of Iran, for instance, if there's a parent or a student from King David who's uncomfortable with that, and ethically that doesn't sit well with them, they've got every right to raise that distress and that reservation to the school, and the principal has a responsibility to hear them out. And I wonder if Roedean, in the face of all this distress and concerns that were raised, they probably thought, we can get the students to just still play tennis with King David, which I think would be completely wrong. Because if truly Roedean wanted to hear the students and the parents, before they can play with King David, then they should have communicated effectively and said, we have to postpone or cancel this thing because we've got some parents and students that are uncomfortable. And until that is resolved, we cannot have a game. But they didn't communicate that effectively. That is disappointing. It's 11 minutes before 10. Dumelang, welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We spoke to Capitec earlier about just some scams because they are on the rise, and this is a conversation we've been bringing to you in bits and pieces over the last couple of weeks. So I've taken about 10 minutes of your time on the 702 open line to have that quick chat before we wrap up the 702 open line. But I want us to continue the conversation that we started on the 702 open line. I'm aware that there were lots of calls. There were lots of voice notes as well that I didn't even get to. So I want to give you that opportunity in this half hour to continue that chat. So I'm moving things around. I'll play that interview with Paul O'Sullivan at past and bring in some members of the committee, of that ad hoc committee as well. So you can give us a call. If I didn't get to your call and you still want to comment on 011-883-0702, or you can send a WhatsApp on 072-702-1702. If you were not listening earlier, we were talking about this tussle between Roedean and King David schools. Roedean has students and parents who have raised some concerns about playing in a tennis fixture with King David's, which is a Jewish school. And they were not able to effectively communicate that, let's cancel that. So King David ended up going to Roedean, and then excuses were given to King David, and then King David left, and they're now accusing Roedean of being anti-Semitic because they're saying Roedean is refusing to play with a Jewish school, which I really think that that's really pushing it, because Roedean has played King David before. In fact, many times over the years. The difference now is that there are some parents. In fact, I've received some messages from some of the parents of students who go to Roedean who are saying that there are things that made them uncomfortable while they went to King David. And one of the things that made them uncomfortable was the fact that whenever they go to King David, there's an environment where Israeli flags are displayed, IDF posters and armed guards are at the entrance to the school, and the parents, some of the students from Roedean, raised issues with the school principal, and I think the responsibility the principal has is to hear them out. Isn't that what we want? We want to raise independent thinkers. And my understanding is that Roedean's boarding school in itself is highly socially conscious. So critical thinking is quite embedded in their education, as one former parent has actually also told me. So it's good that you've got students and learners that are able to say to the principal, these are the concerns that we have. And whether they're right or wrong, the responsibility of that principal is to hear them out, right? And I have not come across anywhere where the school principal says, we don't want to play you as King David because you as King David are a Jewish school. And also, if that was the case, then, that would have happened a long time ago over the years. But instead, the two schools have actually played with each other. So if you are a parent, I'd like to know what you make of how the two schools have handled this situation. We got a call from Wendy earlier, who, by the way, is with the Jewish Board of Deputies, who try to argue that King David is an apolitical school. I went to check the website of King David, and let me read you parts of what it says. And I quote, "As an organization, we are committed to the state of Israel, her continued success, legitimacy, and the vital role she plays in the lives of Jews in the diaspora. While individuals may hold different political ideologies, King David Schools instills in our students a love and unwavering support of the state. Join us in our commitment to Jewish education, culture, and identity at King David's School." And when the Roedean students went there at some point, there were pictures of Israeli hostages in and around the school. So, is that apolitical? You decide. At the end of the day, there are some parents and pupils from Roedean who were uncomfortable about that. And whether they were wrong or right, they deserve to be heard. And as I've said in the beginning, I really think that Roedean could have handled this better. They could have effectively, as they've apologized, they themselves are saying we should have effectively communicated to the King David's team that we have cancelled this tennis fixture, as opposed to have them come to Roedean and then they leave without having played. George, let's start with your call. You are in Johannesburg. What are your thoughts on this?
Hi, morning. I can talk to you about this for days, but I'll try and keep it brief. So, first up, full support to the girls of Roedean. We all know there's a global boycott campaign movement against Israel. It's happened in World Cup fixtures, and it's going to continue to spread across various platforms globally, and schools are never going to be excluded from this. Now, something that I have to ask is, why does the Jewish community in South Africa not differentiate their own Jewish religion from the politics? Building on from what you just read out from their website, at King David in particular, those kids swear allegiance to the Israeli flag every single morning at school. You've looked at the website. I'm not making it up. It's right there. So are they Jewish? Are they Zionist? Or are they South Africans that put humanity first? My message is simple. Stand up for humanity, differentiate your Jewish heritage from the Israeli politics, and condemn the genocide. You have to break the circle of the indoctrination. You can't continue to hide behind this facade of Israel's right to exist. Fixing up global politics starts with us respecting everyone around our own South African table. So again, in closing, humanity first.
Humanity first, yeah. George in Johannesburg, thank you. Klaas, you're in Joburg as well. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Sure, go ahead.
Cool. Look, number one, sports needs to continue, and then we'll do investigations later. Let me just give you two cases. For example, I think in the year 2012, we had USA at UJ, and there was a discriminatory issue happening there. Universities didn't say that they don't want to play against UJ because there was a particular race reserved for white players. Same thing, there was an issue with the University of Free State when there was that peeing incident. Same thing with the University of Stellenbosch, where there was a peeing incident, and the management didn't hold it well. But universities didn't go out and say, we're not going to play this one. They said, because the investigation still continues, let's play and investigate it after. Roedean received pressure from the parents and the learners. What they needed to do, of course, was to investigate, but allow the fixture to continue. That's what they needed to do.
You mean force them to participate in the fixture? That's effectively what you're saying.
No. You are not forcing. What we're saying is that they said they received, obviously what happens is they receive grievances or they received concerns. So as a principal, you take the concerns. When you take the concerns, okay, cool, I understand your concerns, I'm noting them. Pending the investigation, can you continue this way? The same things happen in other incidences.
No, but what if the learners are saying, so, Klaas, I hear the incidences you're mentioning. That doesn't mean that that's the way to do things. So UJ may have dealt with cases like that, or University of Bloemfontein. That's their way of doing it. That doesn't make it right. In this case, I'm saying, I hear what you're saying, that play and then investigate. What if the students and the parents are saying, we are uncomfortable to participate even in this fixture? What do you do as a principal? Do you force them?
No, of course. When it comes to sport, you don't force people.
So what do you do?
But my point here, I'm saying that, I think you are privy to the voice note. The voice note was saying that the learners, the first voice note, or the statement said the learners were not available there at a workshop. Understand? That's what I was saying. So I don't think would have been an entire community of tennis. This was a decision taken by the school. Understand? Say, no, we are putting an umbrella rule now because certain people are not comfortable, meaning the whole tennis team won't play. We don't even know how many people are not comfortable. Out of the 10, might have been 3 people, but the school put an umbrella rule. And the question now goes back to, if this Roedean was supposed to be playing schools like Auckland Park Academy of Excellence that goes out there flying Hamas flags high and obviously supports Iran, was the school going to do the same thing when it comes to those ones? Oh, it's just an issue of the fact that, okay, this is KDL and we've seen this and we're going to sort of treat them differently because we know how these things work out. So the pressure only focus on this one. Where's the pressure when it comes to the other school that supports Hamas?
Which school supports Hamas?
Auckland Park Academy of Excellence.
Oh, they raise the Hamak flag every day.
Not every day, but we
What do they do?
in the schools. The kids are taught about Hamas being a resistant movement. There are Hamas flags in the schools. They don't sound like they raise it every day.
What's the name of that school? So I can get the producers to check that out. I'm not aware of that class.
I mean, if you are in Auckland Park, you will be able to even visit them. It's
what's the name?
Auckland Park Academy of Excellence. You can actually go visit the school and see what is in the school.
Well, the producers will check that class. We'll check that if the school represents.
Flags, there are a lot of things there. My point is that, of course, as I'm saying, when it comes to sport, you sign a code of conduct as a coach, as a learner, also as a parent. There are a lot of things that are involved. But if anything that involves investigation, the sport must continue pending the investigation.
Yeah, but plus what if they don't want to play? They're still saying we can't wait for an investigation. We're uncomfortable, which is why I'm asking you. So are you suggesting then the principal must force them?
That's what I'm saying. Same thing. You're ignoring the fact that in a tennis team is obviously they are playing as individuals or as doubles.
Yeah.
There might have been 10 of them, but in the 10, I differ on the fact that I don't think all of them were uncomfortable.
Oh, so maybe say to those that are uncomfortable, leave.
Yes.
Okay.
You allow those, maybe the 3 that were not comfortable playing, you allow them not to play, but the rest. So
okay, so what if there's 6? What if there's 6 that are out and there's no way you can have a tennis match without, let's say, I don't know, 6 players that are needed there? What happens there?
Come on. You know how school system works. Whenever there's a big pool of players. So if a player is uncomfortable based on whether, let's leave the politics, I'm uncomfortable because I'm not feeling well, I'm uncomfortable because of the weather or they're traveling, there are always subs. So the other 6, if they're not, they don't want to play, there's always going to be another pool to pull up players from. You understand?
Yeah,
but I'm saying you cannot now put an umbrella rule. When you put an umbrella rule saying we are not playing, now it becomes an issue of a school.
Yeah, but we are also assuming that it's an umbrella rule because you don't know how many of those students are uncomfortable, do you?
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so
we're dealing with assumptions here. But my point again goes back to the fact that sports continues pending investigation.
Yeah, well,
wait. If we are putting a rule that we're going to not play this school based on their political ideas, then meaning there are other schools like the German schools, the Russian School of Ballet, the Auckland Park School of Academy. So meaning you must have the same rule that applies to those schools.
There's no rule from Roedean that says we are not going to play. Roedean's principle just simply said.
They should have played because there's no rule. I like the fact that you said that.
No, just because there's no rule. Hold on. Just because there's no rule. Just because there is no rule doesn't mean that they were supposed to play. Class.
It means what?
Roedean. That means Roedean has played with King David before.
Yes.
The difference now is there are some players and some parents and some students who have raised reservations, and the principal wants to hear them out. What is wrong with the principal wanting to hear them out?
There's nothing wrong with that, but the fixture continues.
No, the kids don't. What if we're assuming here, which is where I don't want to go there because you don't know how many kids have been against it.
The kids don't want. Don't do that.
There are kids who have said they don't want to play. That's what the principal said.
That's what I'm saying. Out of how many?
We don't know, which is why I don't want to argue that with you.
That's what I'm saying. With you again, I'm saying you are putting an umbrella rule as well. You said the kids don't want. How many are we speaking for?
We don't know.
There's always a pool of players. If we do a survey and go to the whole Roedean tennis team and say, guys, how many of you want to play King David? We're not sure how many will.
We don't.
But the fact, listen. My point here is that the fixture has been there. The school knew about the fixture for years. By the way, they're in the same district. They know the schools that they're going to play. Whether you're in D9, we know I'm going to play this team, this school in squash or in netball, in hockey. You know for a fact because we're in that. How come this was not raised?
Yeah, you're moving to another point now again.
No. I'm sure
just
that
hold on.
They knew about that.
Class, hold on.
In their fixture.
So we must. Okay, class.
I'm not even done, but you are disrupting. But let me allow
I've given you a chance. I literally kept quiet so that you can go on, so I can come in. So, if we're not gonna give each other a chance, then we're not having a rational conversation. I wanted to respond to your first point, but then you jumped to the next point, which is actually a point I raised in the beginning. that the way Roedean has handled this is bad because they knew about this fixture a while back. And they should have communicated to King David that we are cancelling this fixture. I even read you a statement where Roedean is apologizing. Regrettably, this cancellation was not effectively communicated. You've just jumped to that point, and I don't disagree with you there. I still wanted to raise your first point, which is what? I don't want to debate with you whether there's a rule or not, or how many kids are going to play where we're uncomfortable or not, because I don't have those numbers. You don't have those numbers either.
True.
Where I disagree with you is that, pending an investigation, the sports must continue, because we just don't know if it was even feasible. What I'm happy with what the principal has done is prioritize her community. That's it. If there are students or parents who are concerned, whether that there's ground and foundation to that concern and distress or not, that is the school and the principal and the community to deal with it. But I wouldn't have been comfortable if I was a parent and I raised a distress, or my child who goes to the school raises a distress, and then the principal says, okay, we'll investigate, but in the meantime, go play. I wouldn't be comfortable with that. But I'm happy that the principal said, I want to hear what the kids are saying. I want to hear what the parents are saying. Let's postpone it. Where I agree with you is they should have handled it better. They knew this fixture is coming. These concerns have been raised before. Why are they only acting so late? And why are they allowing King David to come there, only for King David to walk away without playing with them?
Can I come in now?
Yes, come in.
Look, we see, that's what I'm saying. Obviously, we are relying on assumptions because we don't have all the facts. And obviously, we rely on the media statements, we're relying on the statement released by the schools and the voice note that have been trending. But now, as a school, if Clement's child goes to a particular school, and Clement, because he believes that that school has issues, and Clement alone goes and complains to the principal. Clement alone. Yes, I'm talking about Clement alone.
Going back.
He complains. I'm saying that's because we are relying on assumptions. You are saying, in your point, you are saying that the whole fixture must be cancelled because I, as Clement Manyathela said, my kid and as a parent, we are not comfortable playing against the school. You understand? So we can't operate like that. We can't operate because of a particular individual or maybe a certain number of people who were not comfortable. And that's the thing. We can't operate. That's my point here.
Yeah.
That
so
since we don't know how many, but the sport continues.
But how does it continue when we don't know how many? Class, okay, we'll leave it there. How does the sport continue when you don't know how many? Which is where I don't want to debate that. We don't know. What if there was no one in the tennis team who was willing to play? That's why I'm not trying to play there. I'm trying to deal with, how did the principal react? She said, I want to hear the people who complained. So she's giving them an opportunity. I would rather that than a principal who says, okay, I hear your complaints, but still, go play with the very same people that some people may feel uncomfortable to play with. But if there are some people who wanted to play and the fixture could still continue, absolutely. Those who are uncomfortable can then be pulled. But again, I'm not going there because you and I don't know how many out of this tennis team were willing to play with King David's and how many were not.
Clement, I've been following the King David Roedean saga since the very first time it broke. And as the facts have been coming out, my feelings have been changing, and like you, I've got different opinions. But what I do think we need to talk about is when things like this come up, I think there are effective channels for the heads of schools to deal with one another. I think the coach doing a voice note to parents at a time when the emotions were running very high is what the school should be dealing with, King David should be dealing with. I think there are better ways to deal with it as adults, and I think there are lines of communications in corporates and in schools that we need to respect. So I think that, it is a note to all of us.
Clement and the team, Andy Lane, Brackendowns, I hear the story about the schools. Us as parents, we are the ones who bring all this racial segregation and political segregation. These kids grow up together in kindergartens, they become best friends, and in primary schools. As they grow out, we pull away from each other. It's all about us parenting, putting our own opinions and views and enforcing it on our kids and laying breaking down.
Morning, Clement. You see now when we are starting to take this thing here, Palestine and Israel to schools, we are making a very big mistake. We have nothing to do with what is happening in Palestine or Israel. And it's not like everyone in South Africa is bound to support Palestine. If I don't choose to support Palestine, it's my choice, and no one should force me. No one should come to me and say, I won't play with you because you are supporting Israel, you are not supporting Palestine. I have a right to support whoever I want to support. Thank you, Clement.
Yeah, you can support Palestine, you can support Israel, or you cannot support Israel and you cannot support Palestine. It's your choice. That's precisely the point. Kim, you're calling from Johannesburg. You're an ex-parent of at King David's. Good morning.
Hi, Clement. How are you?
Good, man. What are your thoughts?
Clement, I'm horrified at what's going on. Firstly, I think that this is school sport. This is not professional sport. This is school sport. So I definitely believe that teachers, parents' bodies and everything should be aware that kids are allowed their own views and take their own views and then discuss that this is on the sports field. This all happened after the coach from Roedean contacted the King David principal. There's a voice note that was done about this. You can hear it on lots of social media, where the lady from Roedean explained that they did not want to play against a Jewish day school. And she clearly said that she asked if there were any, they've had this problem before, and King David responded no. They may have played, Roedean may have played King David years ago, but maybe not since the war since the 7th of October.
So is the issue then them being Jewish?
Roedean had made the decision, and what the King David coach said, and she was right, if you don't want to play against us and you don't want to take this matter further, then cancel the match and give the 3 points to
forfeit
King David.
to the points.
And you know what? The Roedean coach refused to accept that.
Which is wrong.
He rather said, which is wrong. Hence, I'm saying they mustn't use the excuse that they had previous academic meetings that the kids had to attend, because that's not true. The coach had deliberately phoned King David to discuss this. And she had phoned King David and said that they had parents from Roedean who stand on the sidelines saying harsh things about the Jews. And the King David lady said, then I will bring security. The Roedean coach said, no. Don't worry, you don't need security. I'll be there to ensure the parents behave. So this is really parents indoctrinating their children not to play against the Jewish community. We're living in South Africa. What's going on in Israel and Palestine has got absolutely nothing to do with South Africa. Nothing. Not everyone that's Jewish agrees with what's going on in Palestine. Everyone's got their own opinions, but this is school sport. And school sport should not have religious beliefs brought onto the field. It is totally unacceptable. And the way Roedean have gone around this is horrendous.
All right, Kim in Johannesburg, thank you so much for your thoughts. I hope I can speak to someone at Roedean at some point, as I've also said on the open line in the previous hour. Yeah, I really just think the way they've dealt with this leaves a lot to be desired. I don't completely disagree with everything, as I've said. I agree with the approach the principal has taken to at least hear the parents or the students. But the way they've handled it and even communicating this cancellation, it's just wild. It's 10:32.